Hi, and welcome to ECU Tuning Academy. My name's Chris, and in today's video, we're going to walk through rolling anti-lag using Haltech NSP, focusing on how the ECU can hold speed or RPM while building boost, and why getting the setup right makes the difference between a clean slingshot and a dangerous mess. Rolling anti-lag is one of those features that can look simple in the menu, but the way you use it depends heavily on what you're trying to achieve. For a turbo car, the main goal is usually to build boost before a rolling launch, so the engine is already in its power when you release the button. But it can also be used as a speed or RPM hold strategy, which means even naturally aspirated or supercharged cars can use it in a roll racing environment when consistency matters. So the first thing to understand is this: rolling anti-lag is not just make flames and build boost. Inside the ECU, it is really a controlled limiter. You press a button, and while that button is active, the ECU will hold either engine RPM or vehicle speed based on how you configure it. On a turbocharged combination, that limiter can be combined with ignition override and fuel correction, so the turbocharger keeps working while the car is being held at a consistent RPM or speed. That's what creates the slingshot effect when you release it. Let's get into the software. Go to Vehicle Functions, Motorsport Rolling Anti-Lag. This is the main control page, and right away, the most important setting is control type. You'll typically see 4 options: RPM, when activated, fixed RPM speed, when activated, fixed speed. Let's break those down properly, because choosing the wrong one changes the whole feel of the feature. RPM, when activated, means the ECU will hold the engine at whatever RPM it was at when you press the button. This is usually the most practical choice for a turbo street or roll race car, because you can roll into the right part of the power band, press the button, and let the ECU hold you there while the turbo comes up. Fixed RPM means the ECU will always hold a set RPM value that you define in the fixed limit box. This can work, but it's less flexible. If you're in the wrong gear or not in the right road speed, it may not feel natural. Speed, when activated, means the ECU will hold the speed the car was traveling at when you press the button. This requires a properly configured vehicle speed sensor. Fixed speed means the ECU will hold a specific speed value. This is the one that makes the most sense for sanctioned roll racing when everyone needs to cross the start at a consistent speed like 40, 50, or 60 kilometers per hour. Quick tip here: if you're building this for a turbo street car, and you're mainly using it to spool the turbo before a hit, start with RPM when activated. If you're building it for organized roll racing where the start speed matters, fixed speed is usually the cleaner option. Now let's go to the wiring tab. This is where you assign the rolling anti-lag switch. The first practical thing to know is that this feature wants a momentary button, not a latching switch. You want to press it to enable the function and release it to immediately return the engine to normal operation. You can wire that switch into either an SPI or an AVI. If you're using an SPI, you need to set the edge correctly. If the switch grounds the input when pressed, you'll generally use falling edge. If the switch sends voltage to the input when pressed, you'll generally use rising edge. For switch inputs, the sensor type should be treated like a switch input rather than a real speed sensor, and the pull-up needs to match how the switch is wired. If you're using an AVI, then you need to define switch on voltage and switch off voltage so the ECU knows exactly when the button is being pressed and when it has been released. The important tip here is you don't want the input to hover right on the threshold and flicker on and off. You want a clean on voltage and a clean off voltage with some separation between them. Quick tip: if you're wiring a simple steering wheel button and you've got a spare SPI available, that's usually the cleanest way to do it. Now go back to the main rolling anti-lag page. Next, look at cut method. This is how the ECU will actually hold the RPM or speed while the function is active. Your options include things like ignition cut, fuel cut, or combined cut strategies. Usually, ignition cut is the best starting point for rolling anti-lag. The whole goal of rolling anti-lag on a turbo car is to hold RPM or speed while still keeping exhaust energy high enough to spool the turbo. Ignition cut generally does that better than pure fuel cut, because fuel cut removes energy from the system harder, while ignition cut still helps keep the turbo working. The Haltech rolling anti-lag function is fundamentally a speed or RPM limiter while the button is pressed, and the cut method is simply how the ECU performs that limiting. That said, the ideal cut method depends on the combination. For a turbocharged setup, I'd usually think of it like this. Ignition cut is a good general starting point for spool. Ignition cut with fuel cut above 100 RPM if you're finding it's not holding at the fixed speed RPM. A practical real-world approach is start with ignition cut. Get the function holding RPM or speed consistently, then tune ignition override and fuel correction around that. Only move to a harsher combined cut if the engine is overshooting or the limiter behavior is messy. Now look just below that and you'll see two extremely important checkboxes: ignition override enable, fuel correction enable. These are what turn rolling anti-lag from a simple limiter into an actual spool tool. Let's start with ignition. Go to rolling anti-lag, ignition override. This table replaces the normal base ignition timing table while rolling anti-lag is active. That means whatever values are in this table are the actual ignition values the ECU will use during the event. That's a big deal because this is where you shape how aggressively the turbo builds boost. If you leave the ignition values close to normal, the engine will behave more like a conventional limiter. If you start retarding timing in the real boost area, you increase exhaust energy and keep the turbocharger working harder while the engine is being held. The way I like to think about this table is in zones. In vacuum and low load, you usually don't need to do anything dramatic. In fact, leaving timing relatively normal or even slightly advanced there can keep the engine clean while you transition into the feature. Once you reach the actual boost window where you want the turbo to light, that's where you begin pulling timing hard enough to create the spool effect. A practical starting point is to identify the boost level you actually want the turbo to sit at during rolling anti-lag, then shape the table so the engine climbs toward that boost quickly, but does not overshoot it. For example, if you're trying to sit around 10 to 15 psi during the event, you'd typically want breakpoints near that area, another just below it, and one above it. Below the target, timing retard may need to be more aggressive to help the turbo climb. Right at the target, timing usually needs to be balanced so the turbo stays there rather than running away. Quick tip: don't build the whole table around huge negative timing values straight away. Start conservative, test, and then increase the retard only where the turbo actually needs it. Now let's talk about fuel. Go to rolling anti-lag, fuel correction. This table adds fuel on top of the normal base fuel table while rolling anti-lag is active. That means this is not your primary fuel map. It is an enrichment layer used only during the anti-lag event. Why does that matter? Because once you start cutting and manipulating ignition timing heavily, the normal fueling behavior may no longer match what the engine actually needs. The engine can go leaner than expected, especially as boost starts to climb and the combustion event is being moved around by the ignition override table. So this fuel correction table is there to add the enrichment needed to keep the engine safe and stable while the feature is active. In practice, you usually don't need much or any extra fuel in vacuum. The enrichment becomes relevant once boost starts to build. A sensible approach is to leave the vacuum cells at 0, then start adding enrichment only in the RPM and load area where rolling anti-lag is actually being used. Quick tip: don't try to guess the whole table in one shot. Log actual lambda versus target while the feature is active, then add fuel only where the engine is drifting lean. Now let's talk about conditions, because this is where you stop the feature from doing something stupid. You do not want rolling anti-lag coming on every time you press the button, regardless of situation. You want the ECU to only allow it when the engine is in a safe and sensible window. That means building conditions around things like vehicle speed, throttle position, and coolant temperature. If the car is barely moving, there may be no reason for the feature to come on. If throttle position is too low, the driver isn't actually demanding a hit, so holding the engine there makes no sense. If coolant temperature is too low, the engine may not be ready for the extra heat and stress. A very practical real-world strategy is the button must be pressed, vehicle speed must be above a minimum threshold, throttle position must be above a meaningful threshold, and coolant temperature must already be warm. That way, the function is only available in the scenario you actually want it. Now let's turn that into a real tuning workflow. First, set up the switch correctly and confirm the ECU sees it cleanly. Second, choose the correct control type. Turbo street car looking for spool, start with RPM when activated. Sanctioned roll race start, use fixed speed. Third, choose a cut method that holds the engine cleanly without making the event too violent. Fourth, leave ignition override and fuel correction disabled at first if you just want to confirm the limiter behavior works. Fifth, once that's working, enable ignition override and start shaping the boost building area carefully. Sixth, once boost starts to come in, enable fuel correction and add only the enrichment needed in the active boost region. Seventh, log everything. You want to see button state, RPM or speed hold behavior, boost response, ignition timing, fuel correction, and lambda. That tells you whether the system is actually doing what you think it's doing. Now let's talk about realistic versus unrealistic behavior. A realistic result is this. You press the button, the ECU holds the car at a stable RPM or speed, the turbo builds predictably, lambda stays under control, and when you release the button, the engine transitions cleanly back into the normal tune. An unrealistic result is this. The feature overshoots into boost cut, lambda goes lean, the engine bangs against the limiter violently, or the car gets dragged into a part of the map you haven't properly tuned. That's when rolling anti-lag stops being a performance tool and starts being a parts destruction tool. Quick tip, if you're seeing huge boost overshoot when the button is pressed, don't just throw more fuel at it. Usually that means the ignition override is too aggressive, the target window isn't shaped properly, or you're activating the feature in the wrong RPM range. Another useful real-world point is that rolling anti-lag is not just for huge, laggy turbos. Yes, that's where it makes the biggest difference, but it can also be a consistency tool. If your racing environment requires repeatable speed control before the hit, the function can be valuable even on combinations that don't need a lot of spool help. So the right way to think about rolling anti-lag is this. At its simplest, it is a controlled speed or RPM limiter. On a turbo engine, it becomes a boost-building strategy by combining that limiter with ignition override and fuel correction. And the whole job of the tuner is to make that happen in a controlled, predictable, repeatable way. If you keep that mindset, the feature makes a lot more sense. That's it for today's video. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more Haltech tuning content.